G'day, I'm Warwick Schiller, and today I want to talk about something that's not really ever talked much about in the horse world, and I've only just become recently aware of it in the human world. Because a lot of the the inner work stuff I've been looking into, but I've become aware of the fact that there was a parenting style that was around when I was a kid, and everybody kind of had it, and it was the stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about parenting style. And we all had that growing up. That's perfectly normal, but what I have learned over time is some of our stuff comes from that, and it's not being listened to. So if you think about what happens when you say stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, the child has a concern. There's something that's genuinely upsetting to them, and instead of being empathetic and saying, oh, I see that's upsetting you, is there anything I can help you with? Is there any way I can help you with this? You say, don't show me you're upset, and if you continue to show me you're upset, I'm willing to do something to you that's worse than the upset to get you to stop showing me the upset, if that makes sense. And what I've learned is that some of the baggage we end up with later in life comes from that, and this is only I've become aware of this in the last 12 months or so. And I find it's the same thing with horses. So this is an 8-year-old Mustang mare, very sweet Mustang mare that's come in. A friend of mine owns her, and she's kind of got to some problems where the mare will go around and not want to go forward. You ask her to go forward and she'll pin her ears and kick out. So there's some miscommunication going on there. And I really think with this one right here, I think with a lot of humans you can do the whole, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about thing, and it works just fine. But with certain personality types, it ends up causing problems, or maybe bigger problems than somebody else. And I think this mare happens to be one of those, because everything that's been done with this mare before I got her is perfectly normal standard practice around horses. It's not like the owner of this horse has done anything bad to her. But what tends to happen when we are working with horses is if they show us something, a lot of times we'll tell them, don't show us that, stop that. And her, I went back, she could be ridden when she got here. I went back and did all the groundwork, and then when I started saddling her up, I found her she had quite a bit of concern about the saddle, which when she first got here, the first day she got here, the owner saddled her up and she stood there just fine. But in the meantime, what I had been doing is telling this horse, I'm listening, if you've got something to tell me. Well, if you bring the saddle pad out, as you bring it out, she will just walk off, and she just walks off quietly, and it'd be very easy to go, stop, stand still, and put the saddle pad on her, and she would do it. But what I've been doing with her is when she walks off when I bring that saddle pad out, I just go, okay, and I match steps with her. Okay, and I'll match steps with her and walk around, and I'll talk about matching steps with her. When she first got here, she was a fence pacer. If she was out in the pasture, she paced up and down the fence. If you put her in the round pen here, she just paced up and down the fence with her head over the fence. And she had a bit of a bad attitude about the flag. Okay, so a lot of times I'll use a flag, you would have seen videos of me doing that, to attract their attention when they're doing something like that. But her, she didn't like the flag, didn't even look at it. And so I didn't have much in the way of tools. So what I did with her, if she was over there by that fence, pacing backwards and forwards, I would match steps with her this far away. And I'd pace back and forth, and when she turned, I'd pace back and forth. And when she turned, I'd pace back and forth. And usually by the end of it, partway through a session or the end of the session, she would realize I was doing it, and she would come over and say, hi, and she'd be present for a split second. It wasn't very long, and then she'd go back doing it. And I did that for 8 days in a row, probably half an hour at a time, every day. And on the 8th day, it went away. And it hasn't been there since. She no longer fence paces. She no longer has that thing. So it's just that connection, that being being seen, being heard sort of thing. When she was walking up and down there, instead of me saying, hey, don't do that, and a lot of times people, I think, when they have a horse that has a behaviour like that, you feel the need, you want to fix it. I said, hey, I see your concern, and if you've got to walk, I'm going to walk with you, and my feet are matching yours. That's how connected to you I am. And it helped that. So I've been doing the same thing when I bring that saddle pad out. If she wants to walk off, I don't, because like I said, she doesn't run away or anything. I could stop. I could do that so easily, and she'd stop there. But instead of me saying, don't tell me your concern, I go, yeah, I see your concern, and I'll walk around there and walk around there and walk around there. And we might walk around for quite a while, and eventually she will stop. And when I stop, and put the saddle pad on, she's perfectly fine with it. I think it's, I think there's a lot going on there, but what I'm really trying to do is listen to her and say, yeah, I get your concern. Same thing with the saddle. You bring the saddle out, the saddle pad's on fine. You go to put the saddle, don't even necessarily bring it on, you'll just bring it to like here. And she's like, I'm not sure about that. And like I said, she doesn't run away, she just walks off, probably with some energy. And I just walk in circles with her and I try to match steps. And sometimes she walks around there for, it might be 4 or 5 minutes. It seems like forever, but it's only 4 or 5 minutes. But when you're walking circles carrying a saddle, it seems like a long time. But then she stops, and then I can put the saddle on her with no problem. And so those are just small parts of what I'm doing with this mare, but I'm really trying to do a lot with her of letting her have an opinion, letting her tell me how she feels about things. And she's actually getting worse about a lot of stuff. She's getting spookier about stuff and all that sort of thing, because I think she's starting to let me know how she feels about a lot of stuff. And I'm actually liking that, because the only way out is through, as they say. And so I've got to get that stuff out, and then we can work through it. And I've been under saddle with her for, today will be the 5th day, and it's all going well so far. I don't see us having any of the under saddle problems she had before. So I'm not addressing them where they were at. I've gone back to the, hey sweetness, I've gone back to the very, very beginning, but it's just something that's not talked about a lot in the horse world, is allowing the horse to say no. And you have to be, I was on a podcast recently talking to someone about this, and I can't remember who it was, but I said the thing about it is hey darling, oh, you're going to break my microphone? When you allow a horse to say no, you have to be careful about your interactions with them, because you can actually could be quite dangerous if you ask the wrong question to get the wrong no's. But really, allowing them to say no would be little things like this. I bring that saddle pad out and she goes, no, I'm not ready for that right now. And I go, okay, well, I'll come with you and you let me know when you're ready for it. And I really think that having that two-way conversation with a horse like this is something that's necessary. Like I said, the owner of this horse has not done anything wrong. It would have worked with a lot of horses, most horses, but I think you have some of these outliers that this works with. I mean, that they really need this. They have to have it. And it's a bit like, there's an old saying about mules. People say, oh, what are mules like? And the old saying is, you have to treat a mule like you should treat a horse. Meaning, you don't have to treat a horse that way. They'll put up with it if you don't. A mule will not put up with it. And the thing with mules is they have a very strong freeze response. Their first response is freeze, not flight. So when people think mules are stubborn, they're not stubborn. They've just stopped. And so, and what prevents the freeze response? This attunement, this sense of being seen, being heard. Keeping things under threshold. I've been talking about this stuff for quite a long time now. So, she's a bit like a mule, and I don't mean that in a negative connotation, but she's one of those ones that she needs that attunement. She needs all that listening for this whole thing to work. Whereas a lot of horses can get by just fine without. And it's the same thing with people. I mean, everybody needs attunement. Everybody needs to be, we're all social beings, we're mammals. We need to feel heard and get gotten and all that sort of stuff. But based on our personalities, when you don't have that, for some people it's a tragedy. Other people, that just hardens their shell a little bit, but so everybody's a little bit different. And if you're into swirls, some people are really into swirls, this mare has the dreaded 2 swirls side by side right there. And what I have found, because horses with 2 swirls there are supposed to be stubborn and difficult and that sort of thing, what my experience has been, horses with swirls are a bit like mules. They need the relationship first. The ones with the perfect swirls, they're easy. They don't need that. They'll get by just fine. But I think the ones that have the odd swirls, you get that, build that relationship first. The training part's quite easy. So anyway, that's my ramble about the whole, you know, something like I said that's not talked about in the horse world at all these days, and not much in the human world, but I'm starting to see more and more of it, is that whole stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. It's really, when you really get your head around that, I think it will not only help you view your interaction with horses different, but interactions with other humans and especially children.